Hey BookTube, welcome back. I'm Winx, and the ink I'm talking about today is a book review, and the book I'm reviewing is Jilo by J.D. Horn, which is the fourth and latest book in the Witching Savannah series. I was sent this copy in exchange for a fair and honest review, so that's what you're about to get. Also, apologies if the sound isn't quite up to my normal standards here. Portland is under a heat advisory right now, so it is really hot here, and my office does not have air conditioning, so I have a window open and I have a fan going on me, which neither thing normally is happening in my videos, and hopefully it's not going to create too much background noise. But this is actually somewhat appropriate because the opening scene of this book takes place on a very hot August day in Savannah, Georgia. In fact, the first sentence of the book is, "The old woman couldn't have picked a hotter day to get herself buried," Jesse Wells whispered as he wiped his brow. So we can just say I'm being thematic here. And this will be a spoiler-free review, not just for this book, but for the whole series, because even though this is the fourth book in the series, it's actually a prequel book, so you don't have to know all the goings-ons of the first three to get into this book. The Witching Savannah series, for the most part, follows a character named Mercy Taylor. So Mercy is part of a family of witches living in Savannah. And Mercy was something of a black sheep in the family growing up because she herself had no powers. So there was a really awkward dynamic for her and for her family, them not wanting to expose her to some things that maybe she shouldn't know, and then her feeling isolated and left out because of it. And yeah, that was a really interesting part of the story from the get-go. In the very beginning of the first book in the series, Mercy is dealing with some personal issues. She decides that the best way to address these issues is through magic, but having no powers herself and not feeling comfortable to go to her family, she seeks out Mother Jilo, who is an elderly woman, an infamous root doctor, and something of an enemy to Mercy's own family. From that moment on, Jilo becomes a pretty big character throughout the series. One of the main things I like about the Witching Savannah series is how J.D. Horn just makes you feel constantly curious. I say all the time that I think this series should actually be a TV show because it has that sort of feeling to me like True Blood, Vampire Diaries, that kind of stuff, where there's just constantly the person that you thought was going to be your ally has now turned and they're evil, and then like the people that you thought were evil are now actually your best friends, and the things that you thought you knew about the way magic worked, all of a sudden there's this whole new component that you didn't realize was there, and just it's like that. And throughout the first three books, Mother Jilo is definitely a mysterious character. We don't really know her backstory. We definitely know that there's tension between her and Mercy's family, but we don't know why. We don't know how Mother Jilo became the person that she is and how she got to be this root doctor. We see the first three books through Mercy's eyes, and she's trying to kind of put together a bit of information about her, but the pieces don't really connect. Mother Jilo tells her certain things, but it's hard to tell if she's being honest or if she's just lying. Mercy also hears things from her own family, but it's hard to tell if they have the right information. Some of it seems really odd, and you can't imagine how it would be true. And yeah, it's created a really big mystery around this character that is fascinating and just made me want to know more. Then came this book. So Jilo, the book, starts back in the 1930s when Jilo is a baby and goes up until the 1960s. So it tells the story of not just her general upbringing and family and journey into adulthood, but it also covers a different side of magic that we don't see as much in the first three books. The first three books talk about magic a lot because it's about magical people, but all the magic is talked about in how a witch uses it, which they have their own system. There's a certain type of magic that they are able to tap into because they're witches, and I won't go further into it so you can experience that when you read it. But it's a very cool system, and I really like how that was fleshed out and talked about during the course of the first three books. Jilo, however, is not a witch and does not come from a family of witches, so she uses magic in a different way that we only saw basically glimpses into during the first three books. And in fact, there are certain scenes in those first three books where Jilo's magic is discussed more that I actually want to go back and reread, because I think after reading this, if I went back and reread those, I bet there would be parts that I didn't totally get at the time, but thanks to this, I would. So I definitely want to go back, and I love when that happens, when you can do a reread and just like realize there's all this extra info that you totally didn't get. Yeah, so also I'm going to set this book down because my hand is getting tired. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, but if I was going to be super precise and stuff, I would say it might be more like a 4.25, like slightly above some of the others, just because I found it so satisfying. I'm such a character-driven reader. When I'm reading a book, the plot doesn't even necessarily have to be good if there are good characters in it, that I want to just read more about them and how they interact with basically anything. And the Witching Savannah series definitely has good characters. I feel like they really come to life. I actually like a lot of the secondary characters more than Mercy herself. I feel like I relate to a lot of the secondary characters more, but Mercy is still a really interesting character, and the way that everyone interacts together, the relationships, the family drama and stuff, I just eat it all up. Yeah, love it. This particular book, though, is the exact kind that I have a weakness for. When I'm getting into a series and I'm feeling attached to a character, when there is something, be it a short story or a full book, that gives background on that character, like, that's the kind of thing that I just insta-buy and don't even think about. So getting to read this backstory and learn more about Jilo and where she came from and how she became who she is, and just sort of what's underneath the mask that she has been wearing for so long, yeah, it's so satisfying. That's the best word I can use. Just so satisfying and fun. I actually would really like to see a similar book come out, or a short story. I'm not greedy, but one that covers some backstory on Oliver, who is Mercy's uncle, and again, one of the main characters in the books. And he has a really interesting backstory. There was something in his past that has really kept a hold on him and affected him in a lot of ways. And it also has affected a lot of the people who are in his life, were in his life, all these things. And I just want that to be a book. I want to read about this, and I want to see what happened. Also, Oliver is just my personal favorite character, so I am biased. I want to have a book that focuses on him and his life and his past and all these things. Yeah, so there's that. But since that book doesn't exist yet, I would highly recommend to pick up a copy of Jilo if you've been reading the series, and if you are like me and are really driven by character stories and want to learn some backstory about Mother Jilo. Definitely worth it. And I guess that about wraps things up. So let me know in the comments if you've read this book or if you've been reading the series and what you think of it so far. I would love to chat about it. Alright, thanks everyone for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. I hope everybody's week is getting off to a good start, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!